Good day, everyone. This is Mark Vello, and you're listening to Headline News. The U.S. House of Representatives passed the impeachment of Trump. Senate is expected to vote on January 19th. On Wednesday, January 13th, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi launched the second impeachment of President Donald J. Trump in Congress, which is related to allegations of the Capitol riot on January 6th. For the same proposal, the Office of Senate Leader Mitch McConnell revealed that the Senate will initiate a vote on January 19th. On the same day, the House of Representatives announced the impeachment of Trump with a vote of 232 to 197, in which 10 Republicans supported the impeachment, which comes at a time when Trump has only 7 days left in office. The impeachment process took 7 hours, which is the shortest impeachment process in history. The proposal accuses Trump of incitement of insurrection in the Capitol on January 6th. On that day, a group of protesters, dressed as Trump supporters, broke into the Capitol, causing a disruption during the congressional election process. The intrusion left at least 5 people dead and dozens injured. President Trump is accused of giving a speech earlier that day which contained elements of inciting the protesters. On Tuesday, January 12th, President Trump said in a statement before going to the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas that people would think my speech was entirely appropriate, decreeing that the remarks were overinterpreted by public opinion and that I called for no violence. On the day of the impeachment vote, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called on lawmakers to take an oath to defend the Constitution. In her speech, Pelosi referred to Trump as a clear threat to the country we all love. In addition to impeaching Trump, the legislation also aims to prevent him from participating in elections again. As the impeachment bill passed the House, the proposal has now gone to the Senate. Senate Leader Mitch McConnell's office said the Senate will vote to impeach as soon as next Tuesday, January 19th. That is the day before Trump leaves office. Because it involves impeaching the president, the Senate needs more than 2/3 of the votes to pass impeachment, meaning at least 17 Senate Republicans would need to declare their support for the proposal to pass. In response to the Democrats' approach to impeachment, some Republicans expressed criticism. California Representative Tom McClintock asserts that Trump's speech was not a reason for impeachment, stating, "If we impeached every politician who gave a fiery speech to a crowd of partisans, this Capitol would be deserted." On Tuesday, the House of Representatives passed another bill calling on Vice President Mike Pence to initiate the 25th Amendment so as to impeach President Trump. Earlier in the day, Pence sent a letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi. In the letter, he criticized Congress's call to activate the 25th Amendment, with just days left in the current presidential term, as playing political games at a time so serious in the life of our nation. Pence said he urged Congress to avoid actions that would further divide and inflame the passions of the moment, and to focus on an orderly transition rather than using the 25th Amendment as a means of punishment or usurpation. Pompeo, Iran's alliance with al-Qaida, is the biggest threat to the United States in the Middle East. After speaking at Voice of America headquarters about the Chinese Communist Party being the greatest threat to the United States, on January 12th, a day after, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in a speech at the National Press Club that Iran's nefarious alliance with al-Qaida poses a grave threat to the security of nations and to the American homeland itself. Pompeo stated that Iran has become the new Afghanistan, a haven for al-Qaida, a partner in terrorism and hatred, an axis that not only threatens the progress of the Abraham Accords, but also poses a serious threat to the national security of Saudi Arabia and Israel, as well as the United States. Pompeo noted that there has been a 30-year history of engagement between Iran and al-Qaida. Since the Obama administration signed the Iran nuclear agreement in 2015, Iran has intensified its funding and control over al-Qaida. Iran decided to allow al-Qaida to establish a new operational headquarters, on the condition that al-Qaida operatives abide by the regime's rules governing al-Qaida's stay inside the country. As a result of this assistance, al-Qaida has centralized its leadership inside of Tehran. Pompeo revealed that according to the content of a letter from bin Laden found by the Navy SEALs, described Iran as the artery of the organization. Iran not only provided sanctuary to the al-Qaida leaders, but also allowed its members to communicate freely, raised funds and propaganda within its borders, and launched attacks against the free world. Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden thus gained strength and capabilities. Pompeo stressed that bin Laden's organization has grown and that we must see this danger and defeat it. He also announced sanctions on two Iran-based al-Qaeda leaders, Sultan Yusuf Hassan al-Arif and Muhammad Abateh, often referred to as Abd al-Rahman al-Maghrabi, and a $7 million reward for information that leads to the location or identification of Muhammad Abateh. We want to bring him home to America for justice, Pompeo stated. At the same time, he urged the United Nations members and all countries to also confront the Iranian threat and impose sanctions against it. Pompeo said, "Let's not tolerate Iran giving al-Qaeda a second wind. Let's not downplay the danger of Sunni-Shia cooperation in terror. Let's not lie to the American people about Iranian moderation and pretend appeasement will work. 30 years of cooperation shows that Iran and al-Qaeda's divergent theology is no match for its convergent hatred. That's the reality." During the speech, Pompeo also confirmed that Abu Muhammad al-Masri, a second al-Qaeda figure, was killed in Tehran last year. He is believed to be the mastermind behind the 1998 bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. Prior to that, Pompeo also repeatedly criticized the Chinese Communist government's suppression of human rights and atrocities in Xinjiang and Hong Kong during his speech at the Voice of America headquarters on the 11th, and emphasized that the CCP poses a unique threat to core Western values, calling on the new U.S. administration to be able to continue a diplomatic line that views Beijing as a threat to ensure that future generations do not live in a communist state society. Joint Chiefs of Staff condemned Capitol incident and vowed to use the military to defend the Constitution. On Tuesday, January 12th, the U.S. military's top leadership, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, issued a statement to service members condemning the January 6 riots as a direct attack on the constitutional process, adding that the U.S. military will embrace and defend the Constitution and live up to America's national values and ideals. After nearly a week of silence, the U.S. military leaders issued a joint message to all U.S. service members. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, signed an internal memo to the troops, along with the Vice Chairman and the Chiefs of Staff of the 6 armed forces. The memo states, "The violent riot in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021 was a direct assault on the U.S. Congress, the Capitol building, and our constitutional process. We mourn the deaths of 2 Capitol policemen and others connected to these unprecedented events. The rights of freedom of speech and assembly do not give anyone the right to resort to violence, sedition, and insurrection." The memo emphasized the importance of defending America's national ideals and values, declaring that any act to disrupt the constitutional process is not only against our traditional values and oath, it is against the law. The American people have trusted the armed forces of the United States to protect them and our Constitution for almost 250 years. As we have done throughout our history, the U.S. military will obey lawful orders from civilian leadership, support civil authorities to protect lives and property, ensure public safety in accordance with the law, and remain fully committed to protecting and defending the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The statement said, President-elect Biden will be sworn in on January 20th as the 46th Commander-in-Chief of the three armed services. During the Antifa and Black Lives Matter demonstrations in June, General Milley walked to a church in Washington, D.C. with President Donald Trump. U.S. officials said the general did not comment on the incident immediately after the January 6 unrest, due to his desire to avoid political controversy. This concludes today's broadcast. Thank you for your time, and stay tuned for the next Headline News.